Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please, can you hear me? Hello, good morning. Okay, please, can you hear me? Hello, can you see the board and can you also hear me so that we can continue? Okay, good morning, and you are all welcome. Please, I want you to tell them in the group that we are starting the class now. Please tell them that we are starting the class now. Please tell them that we are starting the class right now. Inform them we are starting the class now. Okay. So without wasting much of our time, let's actually face the class now. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, if you could remember, uh, yesterday we started discussing on the application of biochemistry. Sorry, the application. Yeah, we started with the discussion of biology and how it is important in uh, or how it actually appears as one of the main branches of biology, where we started discussing on biochemistry. So, of course, biology is one of the very important uh, branches of is one of the very important branches of biology. So now, then what is physiology? So when we say physiology is the study of functions, is the study of functions of various organs, of various organs, of various organs, of various organs. Okay, I'm sorry for the delay. So now when we said physiology actually is the study of the functions of various organs in the body of a living organism, of a body of a living organism. So you see, the most important things that you need to know under physiology is function. So when we are talking about it, when we are talking about functions, it means how the body work. So physiology is a branch of biology that trying to study how body of living organisms work. Let me recap actually what we started discussing yesterday. And I think if you could remember yesterday, I said that if you really want to understand the following medical courses: biochemistry, physiology, anatomy, and pharmacology, it is very important to understand the following basic sciences. And these basic sciences are chemistry, mathematics, biology, and physics. So, what is the application of chemistry or importance of understanding chemistry in the following courses? Is that each and every cells in the body has its own different chemistry. So it's because of the different chemistry that is why one organs differ from one another, one cells differ from another cells, and then we have various functions. So I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, chemistry is what even yielded about 220 different cell types that we have in our body. And these different cells that are found in our body, it ranges from number one, it ranges from like myocyte, myocyte. When we said myocyte, it is actually the cells that are found in the muscles, and we also have hepatocytes, hepatocyte. Hepatocytes are the cells that are found in the liver, and then we have nephrocytes. Nephrocytes. What are nephrocytes? The cells that are found in the kidney. So, and we also have neurocytes. Neurocytes. So all these are different cells that are found in our body, and we have about 220 of them. And what make one cells differ from one another is the chemistry, because the biomolecules that are produced in the neurocyte are different from the compound or biomolecules that are found in the nephrocyte, and it's also different from the one that are found in the hepatocyte, and it is also different from the ones that are found in the myocyte. So we have over 220 different cell types. So these over 220 different cell types are yielded due to different chemistry in each of the following cells. So I want you to understand that chemistry is very important to help you to differentiate which organs differ from one another. That is number one. And then number two, understanding the concept of chemistry is also very important to help you to understand how one, even if in the case of the disease and the diagnosis, if you are trying to actually diagnose a particular disease, what you do, you maybe check, because there are some biomolecules that are released from one organs into the blood. There are some biomolecules that are released from the kidney into the blood. Like, let me just give you example. Liver. Liver are known to contain what we call ALT. ALT, ALT, and AST, alanine aminotransferase. ALT stand for alanine aminotransferase. ALT stand for alanine aminotransferase. This one is aspartate aminotransferase. These are enzymes or biomolecules that are found in the liver. That are found in the liver. So one things that you can do in a liver function test, you can decide to say, okay, if you want to suspect, or if you suspect that there is a liver damage or a liver injury, or there is any problem in the liver, what do you do? So if there is a liver damage, there is a likelihood that the content of the liver may probably be released into the blood. So now if you want to know the status of the liver, whether the liver is normal or it is abnormal, what do you do? You can just decide to go to the blood, get the blood, and assay, that is check the amount of this ALT and AST. Although generally we have this ALT in the blood, but it has a normal range. It has a normal range. It has a normal range. If this normal range, please get this very important, because this is actually some of the questions that probably may be asked during examination or during your test. Because if you check most of the question papers, you can see something like this. So in the liver, we suppose this is where ALT and AST are localized. So if there is a damage in the liver, there is a likelihood that the content of the liver, the biomolecules of the liver, will be released into the blood. And examples of such biomolecules, it can be ALT, alanine aminotransferase, or aspartate aminotransferase. Even though we have them in the blood, but they have their normal range. So if you check the blood and you found out that the concentration of these enzymes is above the normal range, so it tells you that there is a problem with the liver. Probably there may be hepatitis, probably there may be liver damage, probably there may be other liver diseases. So the importance of this test is just to give you a general status of the liver. And if there is a problem with the liver, so it tells you that there is an also, sorry, if you found out that these content are very high in the liver, so it is give you an explanation that the liver is having problem. So that is what I want you to understand. So ALT and AST are supposed to be in the liver. And when there is a liver damage, there is a likelihood that this ALT or ST or AST and other content of the liver will be released into the blood. So when you collect the blood and you check for the concentration of this ALT and AST and you found out that it is high, so it means that there is a problem with the liver. So that is actually the importance of the chemistry, because with the chemistry, it will also help you to understand disease diagnosis. Because of course, it's because of the chemistry of the liver that is why there are these biomolecules, and you use them to assay for these biomolecules ALT and AST to tell you the status of the liver, whether there is a problem in the liver or there is no any problem, or there is no any problem in the liver. Please, do you understand? Do you understand before we proceed? Please, do you understand? Okay. So now, then mathematics. If you could remember yesterday, I told you mathematics is what actually gives you the logical thinking. If you are very good in mathematics, it will help you to be very smart and to look at the different problems and analyze and look at them logically. So the logical thinking, your ability to think smartly, is actually from mathematics. So then the next thing is biology. So biology, sorry, the application of biology. So what I said actually under this biology, all these courses, they are branches of biology. They are fall under biology. Please, I saw that the number of the participants are not much. Please, can you try to tell them that we are still on? So now we started with the biochemistry. So what is biochemistry? Biochemistry is actually a branch of science that trying to study life using molecules. So I think yesterday you see how even the life started from atoms. We started that, okay, life started from atoms because it is these atoms that join together to produce a molecule, and these molecules join together to produce monomers, from monomers to macromolecules, then supramolecular complexes will be formed, form from these macromolecules through non-covalent interaction, and then the supramolecular complexes will form the organelles of the cell, and then the organs of the cells will form the entire cells. The cells will form tissue. From the tissue, will have organs, and then from organs, will have an entire system. Okay, please let me actually connect. Just 1 minute. But it appears that like it is still very clear. Okay, but I'm just coming. Just give me some minutes. Okay, please, are you with me? Hello, are you with me? Okay, so we look at actually about that. So, and we are coming back to that because that is actually the main cause that we are discussing. So then the next one is physiology. What is physiology? Physiology is the study of functions of various organs in the body of living organism. And of course, each and every organs, because as I said, we have different cells. And you see the functions of the kidney, it varies from the functions of the liver. The functions of the liver, it varies from the functions of the pancreas. And it's also different from the functions of the heart. So what make one organs to have different functions from one another is the metabolites. Is the metabolites. Is metabolites. Metabolites is what determines the function of each and every cells. So it's because we have different metabolites. Metabolites is what determines functions of various organs and various cells and tissues. So the metabolites that are found in different cells is what determines the functions of different cells. Like for example, what is the functions of the pancreas? The pancreas, it is actually very important in regulating blood glucose level or in blood sugar. So why is it that the pancreas is responsible for that? Is because in the pancreas we have insulin. Pancreas produce insulin. Pancreas also produce glucagon. So now I think you can now understand that in this in the pancreas we have insulin and glucagon, and that's what determine the functions of the pancreas. And apart from that, apart from regulation of blood glucose level or glucose in the body, pancreas is also very important, or it involved in the digestion. Why? Is because they are also another metabolites, enzymes. These are hormones. So in the pancreas, you also have enzymes like pancreatic alpha amylase. So that is why it is also important in the digestion of carbohydrates. So you see, what determines the function of the pancreas is because of the presence of pancreatic amylase, insulin, and glucagon. What is the function of brain? The brain is responsible for cognitive function. The brain is responsible for cognitive function, memory, intelligence. All these are responsible for or are functions of the brain. So I actually just want to say something here which is actually very important. Why the brain is responsible for that is because it has neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters. So because we have neurotransmitters there, that is why brain is responsible for the cognitive function, our intelligence, memory, and many more. So you see the neurotransmitters are also biomolecules. So that is why I want you to understand that all these metabolites or all these biomolecules is what actually determine the functions of each and every cells, the functions of each and every organs in our body. So you see the importance of biochemistry. Because in biochemistry is where you study metabolites, and that is why you are even studying the chemistry of macromolecules, because these macromolecules, they are metabolites, and that is what we are going to do. So that is why we are saying, if you didn't understand biochemistry, you will definitely have problem with understanding physiology. Please, do you understand? Do you understand? Okay, then the next one after biochemistry is anatomy. Anatomy is actually what determines the study of the internal structure of the body of the living organism. Anatomy is associated with the study of the internal structure of the body of a living organism. Internal structure. So very importantly now is what determines the structure of a cell. What determines the structure of an organ. If you look at the structure of the brain, is different from the structure of the liver. If you look at the structure of the kidney, is different from the structure of the pancreas. So why? So even the structure, that is why we even have structural protein. In the body, we have structural protein. What are structural protein? Structural proteins are the proteins that determine the structural architecture of each and every organs and cells in our body. That is why if you look at the shape of the red blood cell, it's different from the shape of the white blood cells, and it's even different from the structure of the brain cells. It's different from the structure of the nephrons, that is nephrocytes. So that is why I want you to understand that even the architecture, that is the anatomy of each and every organs, the anatomy of each and every cells is determined by these metabolites. And that is why we have structural proteins. We are coming to that is part of what we are discussing in this course. We are going to discuss proteins and the different types of protein. So now, I think, ladies and gentlemen, you will understand that biochemistry is a backbone of physiology, biochemistry is a backbone of anatomy. And then the next one is pharmacology. What is pharmacology? Pharmacology is the study of the drugs interaction and how it elicits its pharmacological activities in the body. So, and I want you to understand that even at the point of the drug design and discovery, you need to look at the aspect of biochemistry. Because of course, we have what you call drugs receptor interaction. So any drugs that you are going to produce, any drugs that you are going to design in any pharmaceutical industry, you have to look at the aspect of the receptor. And these receptors are the proteins. So you need to even identify a target proteins in the body that you can use to to design your drugs. Let me now give you an example. We all know arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid, it is cyclooxygenase and enzymes that convert arachidonic acid into prostaglandins. Prostaglandins. So we call it COX. That is cyclooxygenase. That is the name of the enzyme. So this enzyme is responsible for the conversion of arachidonic acid into prostaglandins. And these prostaglandins, it has a various functions in the body. And part of it, let me discuss or in relation to what we are doing. These prostaglandins, some of them are responsible for causing headache. They are responsible for causing headache. So now if you want to stop headache, what do? You inhibit this enzyme. So how do you inhibit these enzymes? Is by looking at the active site of these enzymes and design a drugs that can perfectly bind to these COX enzymes. So if you can do that, if you can if you can design a compound and develop it in such a way that it can inhibit these enzymes, it means that arachidonic acid will not be converted into prostaglandins, and therefore there will be no headache. So I just want to tell you to understand that biochemistry or biochemists are very important in drug development, because is when you have the knowledge of biochemistry, that is when you will be able to understand which enzymes, which proteins are you going to target in the body of the living organisms to come up with a new drugs. Please, are you following? Are you following? Do you understand? Please, are you following? Do you understand? Okay. So excellent. So now, that is why now I want you to understand all this. You see now how, so now after biology, then physics. So what is the application of physics in understanding all of this? Physics is very important in studying these courses, because if you have a very good knowledge of physics, it will help you to be very good in analyzing problem, and also it will help you to look at the problems in different perspectives, and it also helps you to look at things calmly, because if you are good in physics, you know that you cannot answer physics questions if you didn't understand the question itself. So it will help you to look at the things critically, and it will also help you with the logical thinking. So that is why understanding these courses is very important. So now we look at all this. And I want to tell you, actually, because of because of the knowledge of biochemistry, I'm happy that I can teach all these subjects. First, that is why if you have a child that are currently in secondary school, please, I advise you to try as much as possible to train them in such a way that they are going to study to understand these basic sciences, especially chemistry and physics, mathematics and biology. These four courses, they are very important. And what I know, it's difficult to see someone that is good in chemistry to have problem with mathematics and physics. So if you are good in chemistry, you are going to be good in all other subjects. That is all I understood from my experience. And if you have problem, you may be good in mathematics and physics, but you may have problem with chemistry. So that is what I want you to understand, please, at this point. So now, the next thing that we are going to look at is different branches of biochemistry. So that is why I am advising you, please. I'm advising you, don't just look at the amount that you are going to pay in the YouTube. I said I have over 150 videos for 200 level first semester nursing student, for nursing student. So I advise you to try and register with the YouTube membership so that you can have access to all those videos. I made them very brief and with clear explanation. So now, who can tell me one of the branches of biochemistry that we have? I need one of the branches of biochemistry. Who can tell me one of the branches of biochemistry? One, just one. I only need one. Excellent. We have cellular biochemistry. We have cellular biochemistry. That is number one. So now, what is cellular biochemistry? What is cellular biochemistry? What is cellular biochemistry? So I think this is not something difficult, because when we are talking about cellular biochemistry, it means that it is actually a branch of chemistry that links with the study, or that associated with the study of cells. And what is cells? The cells is the structural and the functional unit of life. Is the structural and functional unit of life. So you see, when we say something is structural and the fundamental unit of life, it means that it is very important in life. So when there is a problem with a cell, it means that there is a problem with the entire organs. So that is why part of what we are going to discuss in this course, ladies and gentlemen, you should understand that we are also going to look at the cell itself. That is part of this biochemistry course. So I think you know that cells form tissue, and then tissues form organs, then organs form system. So now let's say you have problem with a cell. What will happen to the tissue? The tissue will also have problem. The organs will also have problem. The systems will also have problem. So it means that the entire organisms will die. So if there is a problem with a cell, in fact, not only problem of the cells. Remember, in a cells we have various organs in a cell. In a cells we have nucleus, nucleus, we have mitochondria. These two organelles of a cells, they are very, very important. They are very, very important. Like for example, nucleus is considered as a brain of a cell. It is what? A brain of a cell. When we said brain of a cell, so now I want to ask you, what are the different types of cell? 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 No, these are not different types of cell. The types of cells we have: prokaryotic, we have prokaryotic cells. These are the different types of cell. We have prokaryotic cells, that is number one. And then number two, we have eukaryotic cells. So these are the different types of cells that we have. We have prokaryotic cells and we have eukaryotic cells. Prokaryotic cells are cells that doesn't have nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. And then prokaryotic cells are cells that have nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So these are the difference. When we said they doesn't have nucleus, it doesn't mean that they doesn't have DNA. They have DNA because they have all the component of DNA in the cytoplasm, which is called nucleoids. So that is what I want you to understand. So, but prokaryotic cells, they doesn't have nucleus and the membrane-bound organelles. And examples of prokaryotic organisms, we have bacteria and archaea. Bacteria and archaea. And the eukaryotic cells, they are the one that have nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So apart from cellular bio, so now that is actually cell. So cell is the structural and the functional unit of life. If there is no cells, there is no life. And anything below cell, it cannot sustain life. That is why look at it, ladies and gentlemen. Nucleus alone cannot sustain life. Mitochondria alone cannot sustain life. That is why even virus and prions, they are not considered as a complete living organism, because remember, virus is under supramolecular complexes. So that is why virus is regarded as an incomplete living organism, because it is below cell. And that is why virus is considered as a particle. It is a particle. Why is considered as a particles? Because it is formed as a result of combination of macromolecules, that is supramolecular complexes. So anything below cells cannot sustain life. So apart from this branch of biology, what other branch, sorry, apart from this branch of biochemistry, what other branch of biochemistry do we have? Apart from this, what other branch of biochemistry do we have? Apart from this, what other branch of biochemistry do we have? Yeah, I want you to understand apart from these are the types of cell, and I saw someone is writing multicellular and unicellular. That one is classification of cell. So under classification of cell, classification of cells, we have unicellular, that is organisms that have only one cell, and then we have multicellular. So these are the two classification of cell. We have unicellular organisms and we have multicellular organisms. So now what other branches of biochemistry do we have? Okay, yeah, we have toxicology. We have toxicology. So now, let me ask you, what is toxicology, please? What is toxicology? What is toxicology? What is toxicology? What is toxicology? Excellent. The study of the adverse effect of toxic substances or foreign chemicals. So the study of the adverse effect of the toxic substances or foreign substances. The study of the adverse effect. Adverse. The study of the adverse effects foreign substances. That is actually toxicology. So when we say toxicology, is the study of the adverse effect of toxic substances or foreign substances or toxins. So what are toxins? There are substances that are, especially toxins, there are substances that are not needed in the body because most of them they cause harmful effect. They can cause disease. While foreign substances are substances that are not, that come from outside the body of a living organism, like drugs. So that is why as a pharmacology student, sometimes you can see even the department of pharmacology and toxicology because they're hand in hand. If you take a drugs, because generally we know that drugs are toxins. Drugs are harmful substances. We don't need them. Because any drugs that you know that you are taking, after it elicits its pharmacological activities, most of them they cause another diseases. And that is the importance of even combination therapy. You can see that maybe you need a drugs for one disease, at the end you will end up of taking three drugs. Maybe you just need maybe drugs for, let's say, schizophrenia, for example, schizophrenia. So if you need a drug for schizophrenia, at the end you may end up taking three drugs. Why are you taking the drugs? Sometimes some drugs are synergy. They have synergistic effect. But sometimes most of the drugs, maybe you have drugs A B, and C. Maybe the drugs A is the one that is responsible for the curing the disease schizophrenia. But after the disease is cured, the schizophrenia, maybe it may cause another problem because of its side effect. So that is the importance of taking drugs B. Drugs B will be responsible for curing the problem caused by the drugs A. And then maybe even this drug B, after it solves the adverse effect of A, this B also causes its own adverse effect, which will be taken care by the drug C. So this is actually sometimes the importance of taking these combined drugs. So the study of the harmful effects caused by the toxin or foreign substances is what we call toxicology. And this study, it may include how the drugs is metabolized and how the drugs is eliminated in the body in the context of this toxicology. So it is very important. Please, are you following, ladies and gentlemen? So that is toxicology is one of the branches of biochemistry. Currently, I'm teaching or I'm doing tutorial for 300 level biochemistry, and this toxicology, it is topics on its own. That is where we are going to understand the difference between toxin, poisons, toxicant, and how they are actually affect the body and how they are eliminated or how they are neutralized in the body. Please, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are following. So now, apart from toxicology, what other branch of bio? So now we look at one of the branch of biochemistry. We look at the cellular biochemistry. We look at toxicology. So what other branch of biochemistry do we have apart from this? Yes, okay. Enzymology. We have enzymology. So what is enzymology? What is enzymology? What is enzymology? Excellent. Enzymology is the study of enzymes. Thank you very much, Halfness. Okay, thank you very much, Tijani. Thank you very much, Queen. So, of course, when we said enzymology is the study of enzymes, and this study of the enzymes include their functions and their deficiency. So now, as we said, enzymes. What are enzymes? Enzymes are biomolecules that speeds the rate of the chemical reaction. Let's say you have A combined with B to produce C and D. So if these reactions, conversion of A to B, so the conversion of A to B, A plus B to C plus D will take, let's say, 30 days. With the enzymes, it might take maybe only 1 minute. So So that is why we said enzymes speed the rate of the chemical reaction. Instead for the reaction to take long time to occur or to reach completion, so with the help of the enzymes, it can easily convert the substrate. This is what you call substrate. That is what we converted. Substrate is the molecules that you converted, and then products, what you generated at the end of the reaction. So these are the substrates and these are the products. So enzymes convert substrate to product by splitting the rate of the reaction. So it really helps the reactions to reach completion within a short period of time. And how these enzymes speed the rate of the reaction is by enzymes speed the rate of the reaction by decreasing activation energy. Enzymes speed the rate of the reaction by decreasing the activation energy. And what is activation energy? Let me demonstrate it here. This is a reaction profile diagram, where you have something like this. So here we have A plus B, which will be converted into C plus D. So this is uncatalyzed. This one, no enzyme, no E. It means no enzyme. But in the presence of enzymes, look at this. With enzyme. So you see, this is the activation energy. And what is activation energy? Is the energy barrier that must be overcome before the action takes place. And how reaction takes place? Reaction takes place through a collision. And the collision must be perfectly elastic. That is, the reacting molecules must collide head to head. The reacting molecules must collide head to head. They must collide head to head, and the collision must be perfectly elastic. And when we said perfectly elastic, it means that when A and B collide head to head, they must generate a sufficient energy that will make them to jump this activation energy before reaction takes place. But in the presence of enzymes, what happens? The activation energy are reduced or will reduce. So the activation energy will be reduced by the enzymes, as you can see from here. Clearly, you can see from here, it means that the activation energy is decreased. So what decreased this activation energy is the enzyme. So instead of these reacting molecules or the substrates to collide head to head to provide sufficient energy for them to jump this, with just a simple collision, this A and B can easily be converted into C and D because the activation energy is reduced. So with just little amount of energy, the A and B will be converted into C and D. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand that enzymes speed the rate of the chemical reaction by lowering activation energy, and they usually convert substrate to product. And these enzymes, they are very, very important. Their deficiency in the body can lead to disease. Any deficiency in the enzymes can lead to disease. Okay. So enzymology is also part of this course that we are going to discuss. So we are going to discuss on this enzymology very well because it's part of what we are going to discuss in this course. So we look at how their deficiency in the body can lead to disease and how you can use the enzymes to diagnose disease. All this is part of what we are going to discuss in this course. This is just a general introduction. So now the next thing, what other branch of biochemistry do we have apart from this? What other branch of biochemistry do we have apart from this? So we talk about biotechnology, we talk about, sorry, we talk about enzymology, we talk about cellular biochemistry, then we also talk about toxicology and enzymology. So what other branch of biochemistry do we have? What other branch of biochemistry do we have? Yes, we have molecular biology and nutritional, we have molecular biology. I prefer to separate this into two: molecular biology and biotechnology. We can just write them as technology. We can write them as two. So what is molecular biology? Molecular biology is the study of informational macromolecules. Molecular biology is the study of informational macromolecules. Study of informational, study of informational macromolecules. So what are informational macromolecules? So in molecular biology, we are trying to study informational macromolecules. What are those informational macromolecules? The informational macromolecules are DNA, RNA, and proteins. So that is molecular biology. So when you talk about molecular biology, it means we are talking about the informational macromolecules. And these informational macromolecules, we have DNA, we have RNA, and proteins. They are called informational macromolecules. And I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, it is very important at this point to understand the concept of central dogma of molecular biology. So generally, ladies and gentlemen, we talk about that in a cell, we have a nucleus. So inside a nucleus, in a cell, we have a nucleus. In a cell, we have a nucleus. So this nucleus in a cell, it contains chromosome. And these chromosomes is a combination of a proteins. A chromosomes is a combination of proteins plus DNA. So there are many associated proteins that tightly bound with the DNA. So what are those proteins? So the major proteins that are found to tightly packed with the DNA is histone protein. Histone protein. So histone protein plus DNA form what you call a chromatin. It forms what you call a chromatin. Chromatin. So how this histone protein associate with the DNA? Histone protein is a positively charged protein. Histone is a positive charged protein because it has lysine and arginine. Arginine, because histone protein is largely made up of lysine and arginine. That is why it is positive charge. While the DNA is a negative charge because of the phosphate group, because of the phosphates group. So I want you to understand that. Histone is a positive charge protein. DNA is a negative charge protein. Why DNA is a negative charge? Because of the phosphate group. And then why histone protein is a positive charge is because of the presence of phosphates group. That is why it is negative charge. So I want you now to understand, ladies and gentlemen, when this histone protein is tightly packed with the DNA, when histone protein is tightly packed with the DNA, it forms what we call heterochromatin. When the histone protein, please get it, is tightly bound with the DNA, it forms what we call heterochromatin. Get it, please. And when the histone protein is loosely bound with the DNA, then it forms what we call heteroprotein. Sorry, euchromatin. Euchromatin. Euchromatin is an open chromatin. You can call it open chromatin. While heterochromatin is a closed, you can call it closed chromatin. Why is it that it is called open chromatin and closed chromatin? Because the DNA is loosely bounded with the histone protein in the case of euchromatin, while in the case of heterochromatin, the DNA is tightly packed with the DNA. So now, what is the importance of all this? So you should understand that in the context of the central dogma of molecular biology, the DNA that we are talking about is converted into RNA using a process called transcription. And the major enzymes that convert DNA into RNA is called RNA polymerase. RNA polymerase. And then, of course, the DNA will be converted, the RNA will further be converted into protein. And the process is called translation. But very importantly, I forgot something. The DNA can convert itself. The DNA can convert itself to another molecule of DNA. So DNA can convert itself to another molecule of DNA through replication. So these three processes, replication, transcription, and translation, is what you call central dogma of molecular biology. So now, what is the relationship between this heterochromatin, euchromatin with the transcription? So when the DNA is tightly packed with the DNA, when the DNA is tightly packed with the histone protein, this RNA polymerase, because the all part of the DNA is closed, there is no site for this RNA polymerase to bind. So as a result of that, there will be no transcription. So it means that the RNA polymerase must have access to the DNA before transcription takes place. So you see, in the case of euchromatin, the DNA or the we have open chromatin, meaning that the RNA polymerase can easily have access to the DNA, and then transcription can easily take place. So transcription is much more easier, or it's much more easier to occur in a euchromatin than in the heterochromatin. Please, are you following? So the branch of biology that deals with the study of these informational macromolecules, DNA, RNA, and proteins, is called molecular biology. Okay. Please, do you understand? Do you understand the concept of molecular biology? Okay. So now the next thing is biotechnology. Biotechnology. I think this is part of what we discussed yesterday. I even asked question on that. So what is biotechnology? A biotechnology is the use of cell is the use of cell or part of a cells to produce a product or to produce products of beneficial to human. So what does that mean? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, insulin, where do you supposed to have insulin? Insulin is supposed to be or is supposed to found in human body. What about adrenaline? We produce adrenaline in our body. What about oxytocin? We produce it in our body. But now, have you ever sit down and asked yourself, we have adrenaline injection, we have insulin injection, we have oxytocin injection. How do we get it? Is it that when someone is died, or we have a dead body, we go there and harvest? Is it that we kill somebody to harvest the adrenaline, the insulin, or we get it from plant? Or do we get it from microorganism? What happened? So we ask ourselves this question. So now I ask you, how do we get this adrenaline? How do we get this insulin? How do we get this oxytocin? That is my question. How do we get them, please? I want to know. I want to know, how do we get them? Excellent happiness is not from animal. So we use a biotechnology process to get this product. Because very importantly, we are coming to the DNA, and I will discuss that very well. Because the DNA is a language of life. So all those proteins that we produce, the hormones that we produce, most of them, they are present, they are the genes. We have genes that produce them in the DNA. We have the genes that produce them in the DNA. We have genes that produce them in the DNA. So what we do in biotechnology, we exercise or we get this gene from the DNA, we put it into bacteria, we use a bacterial cells to produce insulin, to produce adrenaline. So it means that you use a biotechnology to produce insulin, you use a biotechnology to produce adrenaline. Process in which you get a gene from human, you can get that gene from my hair, you can get that gene from my saliva. So you can get the DNA, get the gene, and then you transplant it or you place it into bacteria. Then the bacteria will now amplify it, will produce it in larger quantity. Then you harvest it, you purify it, and then you package it, and then you start selling it. So you use biotechnology to produce that. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Excellent. Recombinant DNA technology, as I think, as I saw, is it MPS? He said recombinant DNA technology. Yeah, recombinant DNA technology is a tool in biotechnology. So actually, I don't want to go deep into that because this is actually just a brief introduction, and I think I discussed on this in cloning in anatomy because there is part of this in anatomy. So I discussed some of this. So if you are in my tutorial group, as we are doing the tutorial, of course, we will come to a point where we are going to discuss this recombinant DNA technology. But this is just the beginning of the course, so I don't want to go deep. So a recombinant DNA technology is a tool in biotechnology that apply to produce various products of industrial application. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining me. And this is where we are going to stop. See you next time. Unless if you have any question, you can ask me. And as I still tell you, try to join to my YouTube membership. Try to join if you are interested. Try to join for you to watch the videos of other courses before it is late. Before it is late. Very soon you will start writing quiz, exam, assignment, and many more. So before it is late, try to join the YouTube membership. As you can see here from this YouTube, you can see join button. You can click on it and register. So thank you very much and see you next in my next video. Sorry, in our next class. Our next class is coming on Thursday. Our next class is coming on Thursday. And as I can see, Babatunde, Rafiat Ofemi have already joined. And also you see this Faustina Chioma already. I see that you are already a member. You join. Queen, you also join. I also see Okojoy. They have also already joined the YouTube membership. I can see, yes, I can see even is it Nanchikocho? Hey, as soon as I say hankali. So thank you very much and see you next. Bye bye.